So, the cosmology of World of Warcraft is a fascinating thing. And we've been shown the cosmology and its structure, at least, from two different perspectives. The most common of which is the Titanic chronicle representation of the universe's cosmology. Let me say something. There are realms, planes of existence in the world of Warcraft. Shadowlands, the Emerald Dream, the Twisting Nether, to name a few. The Elemental Planes, the Void, etc., etc. And throughout the history of World of Warcraft, we've been able to attribute certain realms to certain forces. For example, life is something that is often associated with the Emerald Dream. Death is something that is often associated with the Shadowlands, as it should be. They're the home realms of these forces to an extent. Let me ask you guys a question. Where is the plane of order? Where is it? See, there's something strange about Azeroth. There's a true timeline that the Titans are trying to preserve. There's things written in the stars, almost like there's a fate written by gods unfolding here. None of you know. Most of you don't know where the realm of order is. Because we're in it. Reality is the plane of order. And we're in it. And everything that has happened on Azeroth, timelines and destinies, and things unfolding in all manner of fashion that don't make any sense, how the Titans could shape and mold anything they wanted here. Mountains, caves, oceans, and skies, moons, suns, worlds. Everything inside reality is inside the plane of order. And we're not supposed to be here. Azeroth is not supposed to be here. The Shadowlands and the Emerald Dream seem to be tethered to our reality, as if they're balloons attached to strings that have been pulled in and melded with reality. You know what that means, though? We only have to kill the Titans once, and they're gone, because we're in their house. Welcome to my personal Discord, the Glizzy Gang, where I have typed all of my own notes. And this is what I think might be happening. The gods of chaos. Azeroth, the creator. Chaos, creation, birth, light. The creator deity of the cosmos, we're going to change this. One of the primary forces responsible for the Great Cycle. Azeroth represents true light in the cosmos, and due to her nature, she cannot be corrupted. Only indefinitely contained. Azeroth has been imprisoned by the Titans within the plane of order, reality. Either the lover or relative of Sargeras, who is attempting to free her. And keeping Azeroth imprisoned interrupts the natural cycle of creation and destruction in the cosmos. Sargeras, the Destroyer. Chaos, destruction, rebirth, light. the destroyer deity of the cosmos and a god of chaos, the leader of the Burning Legion, master of the plane of chaos, the twisting nether. Sargeras is trying to free Azeroth from the plane of order, reality. Sargeras was forced by the Pantheon to fight the demonic armies of chaos, burn innumerable mortal worlds, and destroy the plane of death, the Shadowlands. Sargeras used the power of Argus, the father of the Titans, to regenerate his demonic Burning Legion and strike back against the forces of order in an attempt to balance the cosmos. I'll get to the Argus thing, just give me time. The gods of order, Aman'Thul, the Highfather, and Norgannon, the Dreamweaver. Aman'Thul, as order, time, and arcane, is the god of time and is the current leader of the pantheon of order. Similar to the myth of Uranus, Cronus, and his children, the pantheon of order has overthrown their leader, and likely their own father, Argus. He and his alternate self, Norgannon, have used their knowledge of the Great Cycle to architect a complete ordering of the cosmos, during which they dominated Sargeras against his will, overthrew their father Argus, and imprisoned Azeroth. Norgannon is an alternate version of Aman'Thul. This is nice and yeah, this is tense. Listen to this. Similar to Murozond and Nozdormu, Norgannon is an alternate version of Aman'Thul which exists as the product of a turn in the Great Cycle. He is an anomaly to what is natural and is the greatest villain in the Warcraft universe. As the god of fate, Norgannon is able to plan, direct, and design the fate of Azeroth through his mysterious artifact, the Discs of Norgannon. This is only possible because Azeroth is within the plane of order, reality. As a master of celestial magics and lore, Norgannon is most likely to wield the powers of domination, which serves as a direct form of order. The Light and Void may be a direct product of Norgannon's meddling or even an expression of his powers over fate. Light represents the singular result, and the Void represents the infinite pathways to arrival. Together, fate is formed. The Dreamweaver. Fate may be an offshoot of time as a force and is similar to, if not the same as, destiny. To touch on the other gods of order really quickly, those that I have not gone into quite as much as I would like to, Agramar, Lieutenant of the Great Sargeras, and the Avenger, once he's all fire. In the domain of law, holy and arcane, Agramar was a perfect tool for the Titans to use, keep watch over Sargeras, to keep tabs on his actions, and to make sure that what he was doing didn't get out of control. And when it did, guess who went and confronted him? Agramar. Khaz'goroth, shaper and forger of worlds, fire, earth, mountains, and caves. Next to his brother Golganeth, lord of sea and skies, Khaz'goroth and Golganeth cover all of the elements. Fire, earth, water, and air. They have crafted the deep places and the high places of this world. If Norgannon can dictate fate of reality, then why do they only protect one timeline? Because that one timeline is the one that adheres to fate that is written. That's the point. They protect it because it's written. It's like a story that they know the ending to, that they're trying to preserve the ending to. Have you ever, like Iridikron says, have you ever wondered why the Titans sought to preserve this timeline? It's because it's the timeline in which Murozond occurs. That's why. And they act as though Murozond is something that's not supposed to occur. Well, guess what? In some kind of sense, maybe it was destined to occur in the same way that Norgannon occurred from Aman'Thul. If that's the case. So, Golganeth and Khaz'goroth are going to be two that I think we learn a lot about in the War Within, because they are shapers, forgers of worlds, and places that we will be going. The primary zone of the next expansion has Kaz in the name. So I'm hoping that we learn a little bit more about Khazgaroth, but these two essentially represent the elements. And I wonder if they naturally belong to the gods of order or if they've just become gods of order. On that note, buckle up. It's time to talk about the goddesses of life. Aenar the Lifebinder, nature and spirit. She is a master of the plane of life, the Emerald Dream. She's not originally a member of the Pantheon of Order, and she is not on the Pantheon of Order's side. She works with them in the interest of life and life alone. She joined the Pantheon of Order as they conquered the cosmos, potentially serving even as a political hostage. Or, you guys have heard before, you know, it's kind of gross to think about, but kind of like the trophy wife that or the trophy, you know, whatever it is that you win from war or something, you know what I mean? Like, what do they call that? It's like Jill from Final Fantasy 16. It's almost like a figurehead for the peace. And I've long wondered, and I've always told you guys, I thought Aenar did this to control them. And that still could potentially be the case. However, I think Aenar is acting out of self-preservation and preservation of her sisters. And I also think that Aenar is unknowingly doing something very bad, but I'm going to talk about that. She would join them so long as they swore to protect life whenever possible, including the creations of life whenever possible, including those of her sisters, Elune, and the Winter Queen. Here's the thing. Aenar likely creates life in the Emerald Dream because she is not familiar with the ordered structure of the Plane of Order reality. I had in here she may be envious of Azeroth's affinity for creation, and she may be the original creator of the old gods. And that is where a lot of this goes. Your coming was foretold in the rings. I alone can save you from what is to come. Cosmos divided cannot survive what is to come. The reason why in the Dream Journal Aenar is depicted as being chaotic and disorderly is because she is. She's not part of them. She's only there because she has to be. Because without her acting as a bargaining chip, life does not receive the protection from order that it does. And there's very clearly a little bit of a sister relationship going on among these gods. Sorry, but did you say in your latest video that Aenar was mother to Elune and the Winter Queen? So that video was recorded 2.5 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and was put on YouTube recently. And so by the time that I am saying this to you, by the time that the video comes out, my ideas have changed. And look, you might think that people have to pick one idea and stick with that forever. That's called being tunnel visioned. You don't want to do that. Most creators do that. We can't do that. I cannot allow myself to be tunnel visioned and be tricked into believing that someone is the bad guy when maybe they're not. I can't allow that miss to occur. I'm just asking because it made a lot of sense. Well, let me continue. I think that there is a triumvirate. And sometimes one sister is older than the other. You know, sometimes you have the eldest sister who kind of looks after the others. But hear me out. Aenar is related to the Winter Queen and Elune. She has to be. She has to be. But here's my problem, is that the Winter Queen and Elune do not exist as enough. It's not enough to encapsulate nature. Two entities is not enough. The Winter Queen is nature and decay, right? Aenar is nature and spirit. which can also be associated with the word growth. Untamed wildlife. And then Elune is between them, the balance. And I don't think that any of them necessarily should belong in moons. I think that Elune is like Azeroth, potentially in a prison. And I think they might have taken Y'Shaarj and used his power, his body, something about him with Elune. There is a connection that I don't fully understand yet, but it is there. It has been there for a long time. And Aman'Thul reaching down and ripping that tree out of the world is uncannily similar to him ripping out Y'Shaarj. And if ANR planted that tree, doesn't that suggest that the old gods are creations of life? And this isn't a new theory for me. This theory is really old, actually. But I never saw it in the aspect of her not doing it to be evil. It wasn't to be evil. It was to thwart what Aman'Thul and Norgannon were doing. She took life and sowed chaos on the world with it. And it fucked up the plans of the Titans. Without the old gods, I think that their plans are likely successful a long time ago. The old gods, they're one of the only reasons potentially that Azeroth is even still around. Il'gynoth is a tree in Un'Goro Crater, you're correct. One that I posited 5 years ago was planted by ANR and was destroyed. Turned out that that ended up being correct. And that is what Il'gynoth is. It says in the very dungeon journal of Il'gynoth that he is corruption nestled within the now decrepit husk of a world tree. And I always thought that was weird, world tree, but we're in Un'Goro Crater. In Un'Goro Crater, the dream, it's all reflective. So if it existed in Un'Goro Crater in the nightmare, it must have existed in Un'Goro Crater in reality. It must have. It must have. And that's how I came to that conclusion a long time ago. Il'gynoth didn't just come out of nowhere. He corrupted something that was already there. Let me also say something. The belief that everything must exist as a pantheon is a flawed view. A pantheon is a council governing body. A pantheon is inherently a construct of order. You must understand, the pantheon is a construct of order. And anything that has a pantheon is most likely ordered. So people looked at the pantheon of death and the lore from Zereth Mortis and said, oh, there must be a pantheon for everything. That is not necessarily the case. It's not necessarily the case. You might have 1 or 2 gods responsible for chaos. You might have 2 or 3 responsible for order and truth, who have recruited and conscripted, frankly, is really the word that we should use. Through conquest and control, they have conscripted other entities and deities to assist them. My question was, if ANR is not one of them, how can they all appear in the same form when they appear on the seat of the Pantheon? And I think the answer to that is, similar to the Eternal Ones, they're just vessels. They're just the form which is taken to exist in the plane. It's not that what you see is inherently their being. I think it is a vessel for their energy to exist within the plane of order, within the plane of reality. Let me tell you guys something. If we are going to say that the Titan Pantheon is responsible for the recreation and ordering of the Shadowlands, then doesn't that imply that the Titan Pantheon is aware of the Zereth situation? Probably also Zereth Ordos. What if the Titans reforged themselves, like Tyr is doing right now? Reforge themselves in the most orderly form they could conceive of. And now that's how they exist. If they could get access to the machines that literally put their essence into bodies, who knows what they could do? Who knows how they could disguise themselves? Who knows what could be possible from doing that? Maybe that's how reality itself was completely reshaped. Maybe they went to the Zereth aligned with order. But I think that Azeroth serves as a source of power for them, regardless. And I think that this whole mechanism of reality is essentially a prison that I think is meant to inevitably fall to entropy. And if reality itself falls to entropy, it could potentially, as any closed system can do, it can eventually succumb to ultimate entropy, and nothing will ever happen again. That is the harsh reality of our situation. That if the Titans get control in the facet which they want, the wheel stops turning. They're trying to stop the cycle of the universe from working. The gods of death. Argus the Unmaker. Souls. Reorigination. Death. Father of the Titans. And original ruler of the Plane of Death, the Shadowlands. Argus, which exists as death in one of the most natural and absolute forms of order, was overthrown by his children, the Pantheon of Order. Time, the son of death, achieved this by dominating Sargeras and forcing him to cleave the Shadowlands in twain. The Shadowlands were remade because Titans made Sargeras destroy it. While dominating it. And when you take this and compare it to Argus, wow. The broken world. Becomes evident what Sargeras did. Long, long ago, while dominated by the Pantheon of Order, Sargeras was commanded to strike at the very heart of Order, the Shadowlands. In destroying it, he crippled Argus's power, sending the being flying into the cosmos. The Titans used this to frame Sargeras later. However, Sargeras found Argus after the confrontation with the Titan Pantheon, and after realizing what he had been forced to do, he found Argus and built... Oh, actually, you know what? This actually could go different ways. Let me change that. After Argus was struck down, the Titans imprisoned him within a separate world, literally named after him, known as Argus. And when Sargeras found out where they put Argus, of course he had to go and find him. Because at this point, the natural order of the cosmos had already been disrupted. So he goes, retrieves Argus, whose world soul is bolstered with energy and significantly brighter and larger than any of the Titans. I always asked myself, why? Why is he bigger? But he still represents order. Why? Why is he like this? They made him like that. Argus is order, yes, in the form of death. This is where the roads of cosmology intersect. And you have to understand that light is not just light, death is not just death. Cosmological forces overlap. Death is also order. Death is also shadow. Life is chaos, but it is also light. These truths are immutable. They cannot be avoided. And regardless of what one thinks, the natural order is something that cannot be dictated by someone else. Natural order exists as it does, as a product of its birth, its existence, the cyclical nature of things happening. What happened, however, and as it's described and shown rather in the cosmology, there is a great cycle between the force of life and death. One, that is terribly small, wow. One, that is seemingly put above the others, at least from the orderly perspective of those who created this, which were the brokers. But think about this, wait a second. Doesn't this mean that both cosmological representations that we have in WoW are provided from the perspective of order? The Great Cycle is what they call it. I think Argus is basically your Cronus. You could even compare him to Uranus if you wanted to. The hang-up that I keep having is, in my theories, I have always wanted to put Argus with Azeroth. I don't know if that was the correct choice. And that's why I put Sargeras here. The Destroyer. The Creator and the Destroyer. And Sylvanas Windrunner had never realized how closely the two were intertwined. Now we see Azeroth's world soul and it looks like flame. He's trying to free her. Gods of Death continued. The Primus. War. Yeah, exactly, Mike. This is also what makes me think, Mikkonen, that they're not the same. Sargeras and Azeroth are not the same as the Titans. What the Titans have done might include literally like having ordered themselves, which just not a good sign. I see Azeroth and Sargeras as yin and yang, one needs the other. That's how I see it now too. This makes me think of Sargeras as a god of chaos and maybe actually Azeroth's lover. Look what I wrote right here. Either the lover or relative of Sargeras, who is attempting to free her. This story that we witness is not one about war. It's a story about love. And it's hard to attribute love to something that you've been told is so dark and evil. But when we saw him, that sure did not appear to be the case. The Primus. War. Necromancy. Domination. Master, tactician, and runesmith. Master of runic magic. And creator of runic necromancy. Alleged creator of runic domination magic, which could have frankly come from the Titans. One of the Lords of Death, Primus framed his brother Zoval, imprisoning him within the Maw using domination. Primus learned the art of war from an unknown ally in the Timeways, which may be a link to Aman'Thul or Norgannon. However, Sargeras is also an entity of war, and I cannot let the possibility of that escape my mind. But it just doesn't connect in any other way. Zoval the Arbiter, Souls and Death, formerly Arbiter of the Shadowlands, framed by the Primus and shackled with domination magic inside Torghast. Let's talk about the primary magics. Holy. Order, stasis, preservation. The wielders of it, the Naru, the Titans. Method of control, perhaps the most insidious, as it ensnares the wielder by way of self-righteousness and conviction. The Holy Light is interesting, and the primary shepherds of the Holy Light are fascinating. One thing that I have long believed is that the Holy Naru were created by the Titans. If I had to attribute the creation of them to one Titan, believe it or not, I would actually attribute it to Aeonar. Part of the reason why is because the runes above Zira's head are, in my opinion, a very subtle, very clever anagram for the word Aeonar. O-E-R-A-N. The Light Mother. That cannot be a coincidence. That cannot be a coincidence. They're created by her, and their goal is to protect life, to shepherd life whenever possible. There also seems to be a destiny associated with it. My fear is that Aeonar may not realize what she has created. And remember that there is a high likeliness, as determined by Khadgar, that Elune was involved in the creation of the Naru. Is the void dead light? Or is it undead light? And in her pursuit to keep life alive, is Aeonar unknowingly spreading entropy and the ultimate form of undeath? Probably. My concern is that she doesn't understand the repercussions of what is going to occur, and I think that there is someone who does. And his title is not an accident. The Dream Weaver. Norganon. I'm pretty sure this guy knows what will happen when they spread. The planes of... Let me show you guys something. Hopefully it doesn't crash my computer. I created a 3-dimensional representation of the cosmology in WoW, because I was bored. Do you see? Everything inside the border of reality is theirs. Everything inside this bubble is in the plane of order. Reality. And everything outside of it, the space outside of and between worlds, is the twisting nether, a place where every primordial force intermingles. It's the realm of chaos. Yeah, you guys like the seat of the Pantheon up there? And when you go inside, the reason why the Shadowlands and the Emerald Dream are depicted this way is because this is exactly how they're depicted in the cosmology map. Partly in reality, partly not. Linked to reality, as we see the Emerald Dream manifest on our own world. And we know the Shadowlands is linked to our world as well. It's all here, but not all the way. Not all the way. Just mostly. Just mostly. And I think that these realms have been tethered to reality. I don't think that they're meant to exist like this. The Emerald Dream is not supposed to be in reality. It's a realm of primordial chaos and life. It's not supposed to be here. In the Shadowlands, though it is a realm of death and order, it's not supposed to be here either. And other worlds, think of it like they're in a bubble too. This is only half of a sphere. The other half is the other half of the part of the prison. I'm not trying to represent this just as space. I'm trying to show you guys that this is quite literally a border. It is a wall. It is something that cannot be naturally passed through. You need special equipment to do it. It's a veil, and Draenor is inside of one as well, I believe. I think anything that's in reality is inside one of these pockets of the plane of order. There is a theory actually that suggests that Draenor and all other planets that exist in reality actually all share the same solar system. Yeah, that might melt your brain a little bit. Think about that. Imagine if, in a sense, Draenor was in the exact same location as Azeroth and shared the same moons, the same sun. They're all in the plane of order. Draenor is in reality. Outland is not. Outland is outside reality. Almost like it's looking in at reality. And in fact, if you pull up the 1,000 Years of War, the art sure seems to suggest the same thing. That they are now outside reality. Which is that? And everything over there. That's Draenor. No. Don't get confused, Mikonin. This right here is Draenor. That is definitely Draenor. I'd almost guarantee it. But what is broken? What is broken? That thing over there is broken. There's always the possibility that we don't live in reality at all and what we experience is a dream. But that's a different theory. Argus? I don't know what that is necessarily, but it kind of looks like a broken husk of a moon. Here's what I think, chat. I think the moons in World of Warcraft do not just represent celestial bodies. They represent beings, right? We know this. The moon, Musha, is not just a moon. We all attribute that moon to who? Elune, right? Elune's got a sister. Did you guys know Musha also has a sister? Musha's sister is the Blue Child. Well, that's convenient considering the fact that Elune's sister, the Winter Queen, is blue. But more than that, they are gateways. As we see in the cinematic at Ysera's Fall, moons are far more than objects in the sky. Oh, this is Valshra Epilogue. Here we go. And make no mistake that this is not just the moon. You guys have to realize what's happening here. This is not one celestial body. It is two. Ysera's death is not just the moon. The celestial objects are aligning at the perfect time. This is not a coincidence. Now watch. From the light of the celestial body behind it, channeled through Elune, The nightmare corruption is purged. These tendrils of light reach down and grab Ysera and pull her to the Shadowlands. Now, the Winter Queen talks about her existence in the Shadowlands as though she didn't know that Ysera would be there. She's surprised. My sister's pet in my forest? Why? So this is not the Winter Queen. There's only one other celestial object in the sky, chat. And this is why I believe, counter to the legend saying that it is a boy, I think that this is where ANR has been. Here. And to me, ANR being on the sun and being the nature representation of growth is like right there. ANR is gold, her sister is silver, her other sister is cobalt, or something else. I don't know what the blue stands for. Silver is important because of purity, cleansing, staving off corruption, which Elune is proven to do. Anshe the sun, I really think that these are the three sisters right here. ANR, the Winter Queen, and Elune. And I don't necessarily think, like in my last video, that ANR is the mother of the two. That'd be cool. But the mother of all three of them is right there. Right in the center. Creation, light, is what creates life. Life does not exist without light, without creation. ANR cannot exist without Azeroth. None of this, actually, can really exist without Azeroth. But these three, I'm pretty sure, are a fractal. And for those who don't know what I mean by fractal, when I say fractal, I mean a repeating story arc or existence. For example, the Titans and the Aspects, right? That is a fractal. You have the major group and their events, the minor group and their events, and how they relate to one another is a fractal. This, the three sisters, we have three sisters. One of them represents light, one of them represents void, and one of them represents death. The Windrunner sisters. And their relationship with one another is more than likely a fractal of this relationship right here. Hope, betrayal, sacrifice. Faces change, the tale does not. Now you're starting to see. Yes. By recognizing the patterns, the cycles that exist, you can determine the other cycles. That's the only way that I've been able to predict things in this game, you guys. I might have just been one of the first guys to recognize the fractals, to recognize the repeating themes, to recognize the pattern that has been woven. But it is there. And whether Denuzer did a good job of it or not, that's what Zereth Mortis is trying to explain. That the universe is happening in cycles, patterns. And one of the biggest themes in World of Warcraft since Battle for Azeroth is what? Break the cycle. Ours is a cycle of hatred. Alliances forged and broken. We have paid the price for sharing this world. And we have forgotten what makes us strong. Like Varrock said before dying, he's breaking the cycle. And just like those two, Sargeras, who is now imprisoned on the seat of the Pantheon, did the very same thing. It might have been the last opportunity for sacrifice that he'll ever have. And one of the beautiful and saddening things about hope and about fighting for what you believe is right, sometimes you don't get to see it. But in one final act, Sargeras tried to break the cycle. And it's working. It is working. The sky shattering with Sylvanas and the helm. It's working. He is slowly but surely guiding us to break her out. And it's going to come down to us. It always has been written this way. The character, the champion, the hero has long been looked at as nothing more than a vessel for the witness of the story. But it won't end that way. It will end with us standing to defend the only thing that ever really cared about us and wanted to keep us alive. Azeroth. The champions will defend her at the final stand, I'm sure they will. It has to come down to this. Azeroth is not just creation and light, but she is the most powerful beacon of hope in the entire universe. And like Aenar has said, and like Kalia Menethil has said, where hope exists, you make room for healing. For all things that are possible. And even some that are not. The fate of Azeroth will be shared by all her children. All of them. To quote Anduin, stand together as one. Because, to quote the jailer, cosmos divided cannot survive what is to come. So, you can see how my perspective on this has shifted, and why I now look upon the old gods and question. Part of me wonders, you guys know how we believe that the old gods fought each other, were vying for different powers and stuff like that. Is it absurd to think that old gods chose to bargain with different powers, or were exposed to different powers? In that I mean Yogg-Saron and Death, N'Zoth and Flame, perhaps Y'Shaarj and Arcane. Who knows? The question, and the reason I ask this is because N'Zoth seems different. And Il'gynoth says, who is a pustule of N'Zoth, your coming was foretold in the rings. And this whole time I've been perceiving that Aenar is a bad guy and created the old gods because she wanted to take over Azeroth's power. When the truth might be that she made them as a defense mechanism to stop the Titans from doing it. And like Sargeras, in a final bit of a chaotic act, she placed something upon the world that was not supposed to be there. Something that the orderly minds of Aman'Thul and Norgannon could not comprehend. Something she kept hidden, secret. The long circle is nearly complete. What is the long circle? It's the greatest cycle of the cosmos. It is the cycle of creation and destruction. And we are nearing its end. They have subdued the cycle of life and death and bound it to reality. And now, because of something called the zoo theory, they sit outside and watch. The zoo hypothesis is an interesting concept. It speculates on the assumed behavior and existence of technologically advanced extraterrestrial life and the reason why they refrain from contacting Earth. It is one of many theoretical explanations for the Fermi paradox. The hypothesis states that alien life intentionally avoids communication with Earth to allow for natural evolution and socio-cultural development, and avoiding interplanetary contamination, similar to people observing animals at a zoo. The hypothesis seeks to explain the apparent absence of extraterrestrial life despite its generally accepted plausibility and hence the reasonable expectation of its existence. It's also known as the laboratory hypothesis. The idea is that whenever the conditions are such that life can exist and evolve, it will. And secondly, there are many places where life can exist and a large number of extraterrestrial cultures in existence. Okay, this is like Wikipedia. We're not going to get into extraterrestrials because really the core of what I'm trying to say is that similar to a quantum particle, behavior changes when it's observed. And so the Titans did all of this. They ordered reality. They wrote a timeline. They wrote a fate and inscribed it upon the discs of Norganon, and then they left. Because if they stayed, their influence would have changed what we would do. It would influence our decisions. If they made themselves known, it would ruin what they're doing. Now, the story and chronicle is that they lovingly nurture planets to life and want to rouse from within them the slumbering world soul, they say. But I'm not so sure that that's the case. I think that's convenient for what they want. It's a convenient truth to believe. It's convenient that there's a book written in such a manner that it has actually convinced the observer of a false truth. It's fucking so intelligent. I can't. Algalon seems to defy that. Don't you think that's interesting? Algalon doesn't come down and talk and hang out with you. Algalon is directly connected to Norganon. Open your eyes. Algalon, Harboron, Elagon, Rygelon, they're all connected to Norganon. That's how he sees. The Constellars are keepers of fate. That's why they're around. Because it's how they keep tabs on shit that they're not there to see. It's very important. And they are very typically hidden. A lot of the Constellars you wouldn't even notice are Constellars. Harboron especially. Many people did not notice that that's what he was, which is mind-blowing. The only Titan which goes against their naming scheme, Norganon, I don't agree with that. Their names are all kind of weird, to be honest. But did you guys know that reversed in Arabic, the name Thul Aman means something? Aman is the Islamic law concept of guaranteeing the security of a person or group of people for a limited time. Blizzard's good with throwing hints by using naming conventions. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, they are. I think that what has happened here is that the forces of order have essentially broken the laws of the cosmos and have sought to enforce their own order upon everything. They've taken one of the gods of chaos and potentially creator of the universe and imprisoned her within the plane of order and tethered the plane of life and death to it to control those cycles. They've designed the cosmology around the world, the bubble in which we exist, and the fate of Azeroth which we walk pretty much every day. It's also part of why Tyr, most likely, was able to resurrect himself, because what is written upon the discs of Norgannon is not just the past, it is the future. It is the fate of the world. And it's also extremely similar to the cosmology map. Especially the one that someone decided they were going to color. Because what's that on the left side of the cosmology map? That is the disc of Norgannon. That's right. Control is order. Control is order. We could have sought another way. And a cosmos divided will not survive what is to come. Imagine what we could accomplish together.